The Reserve Bank there having cleared President Ramaphosa of any wrongdoing. Let's get more analysis from political analyst Professor Andre Duvenhage, who joins us live now. Prof, a very good afternoon to you. Firstly, your reaction to these findings, or basically what the statement has put out, saying will not be getting the actual report as the public, according to the statement.
Good afternoon, Alicia. Yes, I think it is good news for President Ramaphosa on the eve of the BRICS summit, but there are a number of red flags coming up. Why is this not in the open? Why only a general announcement in this regard? I understand that the Reserve Bank will explain it to Parliament, but will they open up this whole thing to the ordinary citizen? Because I think we have a right to know what our president is doing. And personally, I would have liked to study the findings on basis of the report, because it is still a question to me, how can you accommodate such a lot of money and it's not a transgression of the Reserve Bank's rules? So there are a number of questions, but I think President Ramaphosa, in a way, is feeling a lot better. But I am hearing the bells ringing with regard to another similar matter, the Lady R investigation. And I think these are reasons for concern. We are talking here about the securitization of the state in some ways.
Look, Prof, I mean, speaking of the general announcement, I'm literally holding the media report. It is literally scanty 2 pieces of paper, and it details the findings there. And of course, do you think it is wise to keep the scope and actual findings away from the public, seeing as this is a matter of public interest? Surely we deserve to know, as a country, what really took place at Phala Phala.
Alicia, if we are saying that we are a democracy, then openness and transparency is part of the game. And when it comes to public figures, especially the president of the country, that is even more the case. And the moment they are closing up, like they are doing at the moment, there are reasons for concern. I won't be surprised if we are going to see other things arising from this, maybe private investigations, etc. But the president is now playing the political game, referring this to Parliament, hoping that he will achieve a majority in Parliament, which we know the ANC have at this point. It will, however, be interesting to see how the ANC, as a complex organization, will react to this, and people like Alpha Fraser and a few others.
Look, Prof, I mean, I spoke to an attorney earlier on when we started this bulletin, and he says, of course, the aggrieved parties, which was your ATM, if I remember correctly, can actually take this on a review basis. But do you think there's going to be any fruitful results arising from that review process? Or, I mean, should there be an opportunity to do so?
Well, there should definitely be an opportunity to do so. But as you know, Alicia, there are currently a lot of concerns about the supremacy of the principle of the rule of law, about the implementation of the Constitution. Many people believe there are 2 sets of rules, one set of rules applicable to certain people and the other set of rules applicable to others, like the Owen Farrell incident in rugby recently. So yes, there are concerns. I am not saying they are going to be successful, but I think there are still avenues to follow, and I think legal processes must follow all the possible avenues and see if they can open up the information and try to understand and explain why the Reserve Bank reacted the way they reacted.
You know, Prof, this brings me to my next question. I mean, what does this then say about the credibility of the SARB and its independence? I mean, we also saw that the acting public protector had also cleared the president of any wrongdoing when it comes to the Phala Phala saga. Your views there?
Well, since the Zuma times, we have serious problems with the independence of the so-called Article 9 institutions. And you are referring now specifically to Article 9 institutions, which basically is telling us that political influence is stronger and more important than the independence of the judiciary. And that must be a reason for concern. And we are entering an election that may end up very controversial. And I am concerned that these type of things may reappear and feature in the build-up to the election. But if we ask the question, is South Africa a constitutional democracy measured in terms of standard criteria? I think we cannot say yes to all the criteria.
Let's look at the SARB's findings in their statement, Professor, and it says as follows. On the facts available to it, the SARB finds that there was no perfected transaction, and thus the SARB cannot conclude that there was any contravention of the exchange control regulations, and of course by both the President and Tabanyoni estate. And of course, it also goes on to say that is because the SARB has then concluded that the transaction in question was subject to conditions precedent which were not fulfilled, and therefore there was no legal entitlement within the meaning of Regulation 6 and 1 on the part of Tabanyoni to the foreign currency. What do you say about that? I mean, such a confusing statement. What exactly is the country supposed to read from this report or findings, if we call them that?
Alicia, that is typically the statement we are getting from authoritarian regimes. For example, the regime in Russia at the moment, when they are reacting to certain human rights challenges, they say, we are not prepared to give the information. You must accept that we have do our investigation. The findings are X, Y, and Z. So basically, the person is free to go. And that is not the way democracy is functioning. Democracy is to opening up all the details, to give the details to people and let them decide about the merit or the demerit of the argument.
And speaking of merits, Prof, we know, of course, that state resources, of course, were used in this investigation. Interestingly enough, this investigation and report took a whole year to be concluded, yet not much is actually being said or addressed in terms of the concerns that have been raised in the basis for the investigation in the first place, Prof.
Well, Alicia, this is part of a bigger pattern we are picking up in the ANC government. And that is the pattern where we have huge commissions of inquiry. I think the arms deal is one of them. The most recent one is the Zondo Commission. And we know that Judge Zondo recently complained that there's no reaction to his report. So the government, in a way, is when the news are negative, they are selective not to implement. Otherwise, they are not even presenting us with the necessary information. Maybe President Ramaphosa have a good explanation and he is innocent. It may be the case, but then he need to open up. He is the president of the country and he must respect his citizens and our democratic principles.
Professor, thank you so much for your contributions there. That was Professor Andre Duvenhage with analysis, of course, on our leading story on the Reserve Bank having cleared President Cyril Ramaphosa of any wrongdoing in the Phala Phala saga.